Well, folks, it's that time of the year. The A-League men fixtures list is out, and now we can start planning what games we're going to be going to for the 24-25 season. It feels a bit like Christmas. I'm so excited to finally have the draw out and plan all the games that I definitely won't be able to get to. But that's all right. I've decided to make a little video just to talk about some of the key fixtures in the seasons, a few of my grievances with the draw and the structure of it. But let's just get straight into it. 24-25 season is set to kick off on, let me display it for you. I can show you here. Whoops, that is the derbies. Here is the opening round of fixtures. We're kicking off on October 18. That's a Friday night up at Gosford, where it all ended last season. It's the grand final rematch. The Mariners are hosting the Victory. I'm actually a big fan of having a grand final rematch in the opening round, even making it the opening fixture. Adds a lot of spice to it all. And then our second game of the opening round, Auckland FC, their first home game at Mount Smart Stadium. They're hosting the Brisbane Roar. How kind of the A-League to give 3 points to Auckland for their opening round. I'm sorry, Brisbane fans, I'm having a bit of a joke. But that's going to be really exciting to see how Auckland do go in their first season. I think they've recruited fairly okay. I assume we're going to get a few more signings to come from the Black Knights. And I'm hoping there'll be a bit of a buzz around this team. We wouldn't want another failed team from Auckland, would we? Moving on to the third game, it's Newcastle Jets. They're hosting Melbourne City. That's at 5 p.m. up at Newcastle Stadium on October 19. And then we have a Sydney derby. Saturday night, the evening game, that'll be on 10 Bold, I think it is, out at Parramatta. I'll go through the rest of the round before I get to my views on having the derby in the opening round. The Sunday game, Wellington hosting Western United from 2 p.m. and Macarthur hosting Perth from 4 p.m. at Campbelltown. So on the derby, opening round derbies, I'm not a particular fan of having a Melbourne derby or a Sydney derby in the opening round. I think it's been quite a few years since we've had a Sydney derby in the opening round. And gosh, what year was that? It might have been 21, 22. Yeah, that sounds right. I remember it just being a boring nil-all draw. I think neither team really wanted to risk it too much, and both teams were quite rusty at that stage. I think Wanderers had Reece Williams playing. I think that was his first of about 4 or 5 games before his injury basically got him retired. But yeah, I'm just not a fan of having derbies in the opening round. I think you want to save them a couple of weeks into the season. They're going to get a good crowd anyway. I guess it's going to be a good buzz to start with a big game. I mean, you've got some big games already. You've got a grand final rematch. You've got Auckland's first game. There's some good things to get excited about in that opening round without a Sydney derby. I think just that grand final replay alone creates enough hype to be the marquee fixture of the opening round. But I want to continue my grievances with that Sydney derby fixture because just over a month later, the 23rd of November, we're going to have our second Sydney derby. Now, that's going to be the Saturday evening game of Unite round. So all 6 games are going to be played at the Sydney Football Stadium that round. Don't mind the Unite round concept. And I guess having a marquee fixture in it will probably build a bit more hype than it did last year. But to have another Sydney derby 4 weeks later, so, you're looking at within the first 5 weeks, I think, of the season, we're going to have these 2 teams playing each other. And then they're going to play again on the 8th of February. And Sydney FC are getting 2 home games at Sydney Football Stadium for the 3rd consecutive season. Well, I mean, technically, that home game against the Wanderers in the Unite round actually isn't a Unite round. It's classified as a neutral game. So another frustrating moment there in the draw. The Melbourne derby, the 26th of October, that's week 2. Still not a particular fan of having it week 2. Once again, I think it should be played a bit later on in the season, maybe week 4, 5, or 6. It's a bit frustrating. A few more derbies as well. They're a bit more spaced out. There's probably a couple of months between them and another couple of months. So, I mean, at least the spacing out of the derbies is okay. Of course, you got to have the December 21 one. That's the Christmas derby. Interesting city's not hosting it. Let's jump over to the New Zealand derbies. 2nd of November, that's going to be the first one. So we're probably looking at about, what's that? That's round 3. That's not too bad, I think, for the New Zealand derby. Well, the problem is, just a month later, they're playing a second New Zealand derby. Once again, the fixtures aren't being spaced out. And then if we have a look at the F3 derby, one's being played at the Sydney Football Stadium. And that's probably to help with the Mariners. They'll be playing in Asian football, and that might make things easier to get onto a flight and over to Asia wherever they're playing. But I just feel like marquee fixtures like the F3 derby shouldn't be moved for the Unite round. Anyway, I've grieved too much. I've grieved too much about the draw. We've got to talk about some positives. I like to be a bit positive. Sammy and I were quite positive about Australian football, despite all the doom and gloom around it at times. But there's some things we can talk about here with the draw. I'm not going to go through every single fixture here, but I think the fact that we're going to have a new team this season will add a bit of hype, and hopefully Canberra next year as well. We're going to get Western United. They're going to be having a full season out at Tarneit at Ironbark Field, I think it's called. So that's exciting as well for them. So a bit more stability for Western United after a bit of a nomadic lifestyle. Newcastle Jets, they've got their owners secured. Brisbane Roar, they're going to be playing all their games at Lang Park. I think it was a game or two they played out at Ballymore. But I think it's good that Brisbane will be based at the ground they've always played at. I think those Fuse and Redcliffe probably weren't particularly great because, from my understanding, it's a fair way out of the centre of Brisbane. But they really need to get that boutique stadium. I don't think the Backeries are going to fund it, but Queensland government have got to pull their finger out and get that boutique stadium. Now let's talk about some other features of the draw. Actually, from December to March, there'll be no games kicking off before 5 p.m. That's good. We're going to see some games probably overlapping at the same time. Bit unfortunate, but if it means clubs aren't kicking off at the same time, if clubs aren't kicking off in the middle of the hottest parts of the day, I think that's a win for both the fans and the players. Yeah, I'm not going to go round by round and talk about the fixtures. I think you can go onto the A-League website, check it out for yourself. Yeah, obviously the fixture list is quite skewed. Hopefully, if we can get Canberra next year, we'll be playing 26 games, maybe a 27th round for that Unite round. But obviously, there's a bit of discrepancy in the draws. You know, some teams playing 3 games against different opponents. The vast majority are only playing 2 games, and I think those derbies being played so close together is frustrating. But at the same time, without A-League clubs owning their own grounds, they're at the mercy of who else has booked out these grounds, whether it be rugby league, concerts. I even think Newcastle had a monster truck event once a couple of years ago. So we've got to be a bit flexible with the draws. It's a bit frustrating. I know some clubs go on a big period where they're not playing at home and then they've got a bit of a stretch at home. I think we're just at the mercy of shared facilities. I don't think Adelaide United, I don't think they share too much. The Mariners have an odd rugby league game every once in a while. Of course, Western United won't be sharing at all. Macarthur, there's an odd Tigers game every once in a while. But yeah, you're kind of at the mercy of the shared stadiums. But some of the games I'm personally looking forward to is that Auckland United game in that first round. I'm really keen to see how the club goes and how that goes for their first game. Of course, as a Wanderers fan, I'm a big fan. I'm looking forward to all 3 derbies, despite my frustrations around the fixtures. That opening fixture, that grand final rematch, I think that'll be really good. And the first New Zealand derby, which I think is early November. I think we saw it before in the draw. There it is, 5 p.m. kickoff, round 3. So yeah, a lot to like about it. The same format for the final system, top 6. I I'm not going to explain it. It's pretty straightforward. If you don't know, just go look it up. But yeah, let us know in the comments what fixtures you might be looking forward to. Let us know what you think of the draw. Did it suck? Was it great? Did you think it was all right? Let us know. If you made it this far in the video, please give us a like. Well, we do appreciate the support we get, and do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But until next time, enjoy yourselves.